Some 39 minutes after 7 here on the AM show. This is our big AM talk today. Now, the World Health Organization defines child abuse and child maltreatment as all forms of physical and or emotional ill treatment, sexual abuse, neglect, or negligent treatment, or commercial or other exploitation, resulting in actual or potential harm to the child's health, survival, development, or dignity. So this week we watched in horror how some parents and guardians physically abused children. In a documentary produced by Rastos Asari Donko, some of the girls, because of the abuse, ran away from home but ended up doing things not meant for 13-year-old and 10-year-olds. If you missed the Hotline documentary, Tortured Innocence, is in 2 parts. Here is a bit of the first.
3 years ago, Junior was born to a teenage mother and a young man in his early 20s at Kwangoma in the Achuma-Kwangoma district on the periphery of Kumasi. His story and those of others in the Ashanti region perhaps measure how much premium some Ghanaians place on the protection of children, undoubtedly the future of this country. Junior's father traveled to Nigeria in search of greener pastures where the baby was still breastfeeding. He had instructed the teenage mother to hand baby Junior over to a couple, Nana and Rita Uti, who worked as undertakers at North Centreso in Kumasi. Physical abuse of 2-year-old Junior came to our attention when Nana and Rita rushed him to the Komfanoti Teaching Hospital with a deteriorating wound on the left arm. Nana and his wife claimed the child had been hurt and dumped on them by her biological mother. The story sounded unconvincing to health authorities, who got them arrested. Close examination of Junior's body revealed marks of suspected physical abuse. Junior was reportedly whipped, slapped, branded a witch. The worst is how he ended up with severe burns to his hand. Eyewitnesses say his supposed guardians used red-hot iron to burn him, though the couple denied this. It was, however, established they applied salt solution to the wound and wrapped it with rags. Doctors had to amputate all 5 damaged fingers to prevent further deterioration. For 7-year-old Ajua, her body bears a map of torture. She endured months of cruelty from her father, 30-year-old Kwabna Yeboah, who caged, starved, and beat her with all manner of objects. Kwabna told police he was only instilling discipline in his daughter. Kwabna further says Ajua is a witch on whose chest sometimes he sees 2 pairs of eyes. The traumatized girl told me her father put her leg on a platform and stepped on it, breaking it.
I am insurance and a journey night.
Horrifying stories there. There was a lot more to what we just saw in that full documentary. There's a second part where we'll talk about this, the other side. But we know that unfortunately a lot of children are suffering from such inhumane situations, but have nowhere or no one to run to. What is the law really? What's our social welfare system like? In some of the cases, the stories were discovered really by doctors, but nothing happened, because who do they report to? What action can they take? Things like that. So today we want to have a real family conversation on the back of this. Let me introduce to you my guests. First, lawyer, law lecturer, head of departments, public law at the Gimpa Faculty of Law. And I am so confused right now. Good morning to you. I didn't know whether to say Mr. Foley or to say Sir. So, so Foley Edmond Amakwe is here. He's a law lecturer. He's the head of department at the Gimpa Faculty of Law, Public Law. Good morning and thank you for being here. And Madam Amele Olenu is a nurse. She's a theologian and she's also a teacher and she loves kids. Good morning to you, ma'am.
Morning.
We will join a psychologist, Mr. Daniel Fojo, who is also a lecturer. He's at the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital. He will join us first via phone, and hopefully we can connect with him via Skype as well. You're probably seeing these pictures for the first time, Madam Oleno, correct? And what would you say to what you've just seen?
It's horrifying, but there's a lot that is going on. A lot of people are doing these things, and the children have nobody to talk to. And once you become their friend, they tell you everything. But I think we need somewhere where the children can talk. Right behind my house, we have the shelter, what we call the Abofraboni, the remand home for children. And they have a shelter, but it's not enough because it's restricted. So we need a place where children can walk in and talk.
I wonder what, I mean, I know, Mr. Foley, that you've done a lot of work in the area of policy. You've done a lot of research as well. Is this shocking to you? This is just confirming a lot of the things that you already know.
Yes, it is indeed confirming a lot of what we have seen. The statistics in our country, unfortunately, are very damning. Over 80% of children in this country, aged anything from 0 to 18 years, have experienced one form of violence or another. And it mostly comes under the guise of parental discipline, or you could say some family discipline, because it's not only parents who are doing it, it's other family members. Right.
What does the law exactly say about this?
So in Ghana, under Section 41, I believe, of our Criminal Offences Act, the law permits punishment of a child. And it says a blow or force used in correction can be justified. There are two, you could say, limitations on that. And the first, if you read that provision, is that the child being punished must understand the purpose of the punishment. So if the purpose of the punishment is beyond the understanding of the child, then you would have gone beyond the limit. Secondly, the age of the child is also a factor. So if you're punishing a child who is of tender age, then you are missing that. The difficult part of this law is that it is actually one of the justifications for causing harm to a person under our Criminal Offences Act, which means if you punish a child within, let's say, acceptable limits, using force and harm is defined in the law to include pain, causing pain, bodily hurt, injury or disease to another person. If you use such harm, you could justify it by saying that I was correcting a child.
And it kind of corresponds with what
corresponds.
The person, okay.
So as long as you haven't breached the two limitations I've talked about. And this has been one source of concern for us internally, and also for the international bodies who we have treaty obligations and responsibilities to, because it's been raised by the United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child with Ghana. It's been raised by the African Union's Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child with Ghana. And if you talk about the law broadly, yes, it's not only our national laws, but also our international law. Now, how about the protection side? The Children's Act makes it an offense for you to abuse a child. The contentions therefore come with, where do you draw the line between this abuse and punishment? What we have seen from a lot of studies in Ghana is that the abuse occurs under the guise of discipline and punishment. And that's where it appears most parents and caregivers and some institutions, children's homes, penal institutions, She mentioned the Bostal home, the correctional services. Yes, there are instances where corporal punishment, for instance, is used. And I mentioned corporal punishment because there's a thin line between corporal punishment and child abuse and violence against children. We heard the man saying he subjected his daughter to this torture because he was disciplining her.
Auntie Amelia, why would somebody, and I think some of the stories that we've heard is also because the child is living with somebody who is not their biological parents. Is it easy for somebody to torture, beat up a child, harm the child because the child is not biologically their own?
It's possible, but I think going back a little, there are so many issues. Sometimes we miss the perpetrators themselves may have been abused themselves. And so they don't know anything else. All they know is that when somebody does something, you beat the child. Sometimes to, let's say, the person is beating the child or abusing the child because of something. He's retaliating. He's retaliating. Something that happened some time ago that the child doesn't even know about. But this person he or she is living with, the child is living with, is retaliating for something he doesn't even know about. And some people are just angry people, angry civil wars. They are angry, and so they retaliate. I still don't understand why some people will just beat anybody for anything. I mean, one of my psychology lecturers said, human beings are the only people who will kill and abuse and do nasty things to people just for fun. Unlike the animal kingdom where it's for survival or for food or for something. So there is a problem somewhere. But invariably we find that the people themselves, the perpetrators, have been abused before.
Okay.
Or are angry. Or I found out with children who abuse other children, some of them, talking with them, going through counseling with them, are in cults or groups where they must do something daring, right, to show that they are men, especially the boys, or before they are initiated into the cult. Nobody talks about those things, and so there are those who do that. And then some of them have a mental problem. They have a problem themselves. You see, a father who is continually abusing the child. So we have to look at him. I'm sure he has a problem, but nobody takes it because it's his child. Everybody in the compound keeps quiet, but that man has a problem.
One of the things that we will also try to explore as part of the conversation is if you discovered somebody was abusing a child, what could you do? Can you pick up a phone and call social welfare? Where would they even keep that child? Who would take care of that child? And we will be joined by Kweku. Kweku was abused by his stepmother when he was very little. Thankfully, he's made it. He's now at the university. We will get in touch with him. He will share his experiences with us. We will also get the perspective of a psychologist here on the show. But this documentary, Tortured Innocence, produced by Erastus Asari Donko. There's a second part of this. We will watch and listen to the second part. We will come back with a lot more of the conversation in here, and we'll also activate the phone line so you can join us. I did say that it's a family conversation, so we all have to have a conversation, and we all have to look ahead from ourselves. So get ready to give us a call on 0302-211-69-102, 0302-211-69-102. Stay with us.
Poverty has driven many girls between 10 and 15 into prostitution. Many of them live demeaning lives on the streets. We found some sleeping close to this choked and filthy storm drain at Asafo. They have different stories to tell. Now, Mama no papa.
Mama dear, Mama bet me papa ni
Papa
Papa dear, oh dear bet me fancy. And this Me da medimba pesca. Tawana mama mincham kuskina. Mitimfaka once the compa panche, or mama mitimfaka 3 the corning chow. Mama once now, no dafa caba, not just a man and no. Timba pane pants and papa.
What are you saying, oh, Bushian?
Mamma, my dear, yes, 7 met many about you flip papa. Yes, 7, Mamma, yes, 7. Met me a 5 papanko na me papanko.
Na then I'll free.
And I make us a mediana fuechi. Madame for the catcher, Miss Major Kumas. Miss Medri and Ambeka, Mirror Frebekai. We were slamming Kiteska, and I'm Becca. If you don't buy any side, Marian and I may dear. But now, fortunately, Sandy has had him be said, Mary.
Oh, by and now, if you say.
Bad and I'm chocolate. But with the mobile said, Mary, we didn't say.
Now, if you say, oh, bad.
If you want to say, I'm 11 years as a day.
Dear Jumanawe.
Why should me be a short non-amico?
And Norman tells you, Church of Michelle, my head.
Me know you could die. My day, Mamma Miska. I'm not tired, dear lady.
Dear day, would me a cousin.
It's me go for we are 1 million and not 2 million.
Oko back, what charges?
Everyone 10 cedi. Everyone 150. 160. Near
Sir, will be person or qua would it kind or no a quite of us, you know. Ubejina Bontia, no who, and I said to say.
But I maybe a minute never qua. It's me, Gina Bonti. Near a car price, no. A magic, near co.
There, what Jane said, I dear Juma now, you know. Yare Biana, Bibi Sabit me a ball now, Jane.
What I said, and I may dream.
How?
But I
quite been off for so born by.
Sir, debut on from the family planning. Into a panel, what the rounds, Emma. And no, it be a 5 years and 10 years. No, I say. And don't think of a problem, be
Yare bit to say is no near the other swear.
And they saw better dressed on one.
No, my drawing the Awinia is.
What should I be?
It's a near draw. And I know him, sir.
What should I be?
Okay. So my guest in studio, head of Department of Public Law, Gimpa Law Faculty, Foley Edmond Amakoye. I'm kind of turning the name around, but also Madam Amele Oleno. She's a nurse and she's a theologian, and she can't absolutely believe what she's hearing and what she's seeing. You may have difficulties calling us, but I'll let you know when we fix our phone lines because we have a problem with it now. The lines are down, so don't attempt to call yet. I will let you know when to give us a call. But this is also another angle to this conversation, and again I will take your initial comments. Is this real to you?
Yes, I see a lot of children like this. They run away from home, or they are even living at home, but then they spend their day on the street and they do anything. And it's not only the girls, we have the boys also. And then a lot of them also in apprenticeship, mechanics and carpenters and so forth. And then those who live on their own. In Accra, we have a lot of children living on their own. The Civil Engineers Association did a survey and realized there are lots of young boys living on their own, and they go through these things. And they are abused as part of their apprenticeship. People shout at them, heckle them, ridicule them. I mean, they get hurt, they are paid very little, and so forth. And then they use their bodies also. The girls have no negotiating ability, they are not assertive. And somehow our culture, our cultures just allow anything. And people can't talk. You know, a few people will see, comment about it and say a few things to maybe the master the child is working with, and that's it. And the child too doesn't know anything else, so there's nobody to tell. So all these things, sometimes they'll tell a pastor. One girl told me she went to she was being used as a prostitute by both a man and a woman, and when she went to the police station, they rather started holding her and said, "What happened here, officer?" And holding her. And so she was like, "So who do I go to?" You know, if the policemen themselves were doing this to her.
Amazing. Child prostitution. This is a very little girl who clearly doesn't even know how to protect herself or stay safe.
I mean, I would, as lawyers would say, I have nothing useful to add to what Amele has said. Two statistics to share. By the year 2050, 1 out of every 3 children born in the world will be born in Africa. Secondly, by the same timeline, 2050, 75% at least of Ghana's population will be living in urban or peri-urban centers. This girl now is not protecting herself. She may fall pregnant. I don't think she's out of the woods with what she's going through, and many other girls like her will fall pregnant. By the year 2050, they would have had children who were born on the streets, who would add on to the population we're already seeing. So it's a dark cloud. Let's not pretend it's not happening. I said we have a family crisis in Ghana. We took some steps with the child and family welfare policy to give us something to work with, but we need to upscale our efforts to stop these things. And the perpetrators, she's gone out with a man who I would have expected to know better, but hasn't, obviously. And people are going more for children. Online grooming of children, just close to us down here in Nima. For 1 cedi, both boys and girls can watch pornography for 5 minutes. Just pay 1 cedi. There are people with cell phones, access to pornography. So the opening up of the internet and the cyberspace is also coming with its own challenges. And that is what they are doing in their spare time.
Let's talk about the church.
Right.
These people are also in the church. They go to church. You talked about who do you talk to? They need somebody to just simply talk to. The church is failing in this instance. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes and no. A lot of churches don't even know what is happening in families, and so they don't have a solution or don't do anything. But there are some churches that have avenues where you can call a pastor, you can call somebody to talk to. There are counseling units where you can talk to people. But what I think has helped in some churches is where people have mentors, and some groups where people have mentors and they can actually walk to their mentors and talk with them. I've had to mentor a few young people, and so during our camps they'll come and talk with me. There was a time I did something on abuse and the use of your body, and I was amazed at the secondary school students telling me the orgies and things they have, how their friends force them into the forest of their schools, and the things they do. So what do we do? So I had to take them one-on-one. So it's not all churches who have failed. I think the thing is big, because we weren't talking about it and it's hush, hush, hush. And because people want to keep family name and church names. We know of pastors who've sodomized and abused other people in their congregation. But I think it's time now that we stand on the pulpit and talk about it. 1. 2, have avenues where the children have people they can talk to, mentors, and mentors we can trust. These days, in my church, for example, we actually find out your background. Not everybody should be a Sunday school teacher. Not everybody should be a counselor or a youth leader. We have to find out your background, and somebody should guarantee that you are a safe person.
Okay.
Okay. And we are talking only of the church. The Muslim communities in Nima, we have so much of that going on, and you won't believe it. At night, in the corridors, you know, Nima is such a close community. In the corridors, the things that happen, you will shiver. You know, again, we need to talk about it. We think the Muslim girls are safe. One girl told me that they asked us not to wear panties, and I was like, I beg your pardon. And so anybody can sleep with you. The Meguzia girls, those who used to sell the groundnuts. And so the man calls you a big sheikh, or what Alaji calls you, buys the groundnuts, and then that's what? Come. And then does anything. And you dare not talk. You know, so it's not only the church. And then our big people. I mean, how many people haven't done things to their children and nobody has said anything? Culture covers it. I think it's time for us to open it and talk about it. We should have a place where children can talk. We should have a few women, a few men who can say, look, you can call me at any time. And when we institutionalize it, it doesn't work. Anything you institute, it won't work. I mean, but if we have small...
What do you mean? Because
if you have an organization, a big organization like shelter where people should work, they won't. But when you have small things within the community, when it comes from the grassroots, when it comes from within the church, from the mosque, in the traditional area, a mother or somebody people know we can confide in, people are more likely to go there. It's like buying condoms, right? Nobody wants to go to the shop to buy the condom, when it's open. But if somebody on the roadside is selling the condom and it's a friend, they are more likely to go there.
We always say that we have many laws.
Too many.
I'm sure all the things that we're talking about, we have laws that could easily deal with, but they still persist.
Law enforcement is a problem in Ghana, but I look at it from another angle. I say we need a culture of law in this country. We are very good at drafting. As for providing laws and drafting them, we are good with it. But we need a culture of being obedient to the law that we put in place. And also to sometimes ask ourselves if law is the best way to solve a problem. I give the example of some institutions where they would incentivize rather than punish. So we have, most of the time, the approach is to then put in place punitive measures. But you never get people reporting. She mentioned, big people who do things to their children. Yes, and we are all not saints in this. Some of the most educated people in this country, at my level and beyond, are the ones who even beat their children mercilessly in their homes. And they would quote the Bible for you, for instance, in that context, spare the rod and spoil the child. But I always say, go back to the Greek and Latin texts of the Bible, and you might get a different understanding rather than modern English translations. But we need to see some action. You were talking about people phoning. Yes, all these things we provided in the policy frameworks. Make the phone call. The police, when the phone call comes, act. Often you get, I've been to a police station myself. A woman came, this was an adult woman who had been raped. And an officer just blurts out, but if somebody has slept with you, what is the big deal? And that's where my heart sunk, because I said, it's beyond law enforcement. It's now a culture of law. That policeman had no culture of law in him. So it's a mind change. But the action.
But isn't that even more dangerous? Because that's like your first point of call is the police station.
Exactly.
And if the officer doesn't understand what the law is.
Yes. And perhaps sometimes very harsh sanctions for such personalities. Quick example, A woman was raped by 4 police officers in South Africa. The police officers were sentenced to life imprisonment. She went to them because they were the only people she could trust. When police officers came on the scene, they put her in their car, drove her off the highway, and raped her in turn. They were sentenced to life. That sends a message that we will not condone such action. So where I think the trusted people fail, let the sanction be harsh. The churches, yes. Church and religion, I think we use broadly in Ghana. And the trend we see is perhaps to suggest a certain, you could say, immutable nature of religion that you can't question. So we don't even want to engage with the question of controls in religion. But the right to religion is not an absolute right. So if there is somebody under the guise of a church or some mosque or some other traditional African practice claiming that this is how we treat children, we should be able to stare the person in the face and say, stop this practice. We will not permit such a religious practice or customary practice to continue. Yes.
Send me a WhatsApp message and a regular text message. We're still working on those phone lines. Hopefully we'll get them ready so you can give us a call. Until then, you can send me a WhatsApp message or a regular text message, and then we will share it. We also love to hear experiences as well and what you think we can do. Let's see, this is very long, okay, but somebody saying this is the kind of programming that you want to see and not the NPP NDC. Akwesi from La Paz, we hear you, we try. So send me a message, and then, you know, let's deal with the matters. Let's also hear you have your say on these matters. Okay, we'll come back to some of the other things that you're saying with regards the other conversations that we've had on the show. So let's, with what we've seen and what we've heard, like this girl is still a prostitute. Those who are still being abused are still being abused. So as we sit here and talk right now, what can people do?
What can people do? There's a lot. As simple as even give that child shelter, take them off the streets. Mama V, I think we've come to the point where we would have to get out of our shells. The child and family welfare policy requires that, you see, we start from our community and family structures. We had a child protection system that was heavily dependent on the state. And you asked about social workers. We have less than 3,000 social workers in Ghana, a population of cresting 30 million. So they can't
What's the challenge? You've been a technical advisor at the Women, Children, Social Protection. Because we've been saying this lack of welfare, social welfare personnel for a very long time, for many years. So why haven't we been able to fix it?
Right. So this number, you can say, are the social workers within the state structure. There are other people who are trained as social workers. I think we must expand the regulatory framework to allow for privately trained social workers and persons who want to practice privately to have their license to practice. Yes, this number I'm giving are those more or less within the state structures. But there are others who are willing, social workers in churches, social workers in NGOs. They do work, but at least from my brief experience working with them, they also want that recognition from the state and be given the spaces to assist. So because this system is inadequate, we said, let us go with what we know. Neighbors, you know, fit persons you could trust to intervene on behalf of a child. So let us all pick that phone, help that child. These girls on the street now, tonight they are going to sleep on the street. But somebody hearing us today, at least if you offer them a night of shelter, right, to start with, how much would you spend on food for them? If we all began in our own small ways to do this, we would get somewhere. Rwanda, in the wake of the genocide, when you have a huge social protection problem with so many children who are orphaned, well, perhaps you may say it was a bit harsh, but the government then, post-genocide government, said every household should at least take on a child. And that's how they dealt with their social protection problem, particularly with children who were exposed to violence. Similar method applied in Burundi, albeit its problems. So that is where I think we need to start from. let's fix this family structure that is failing and help some of these children on the street.
And Yamele, there are children, you would agree, who, irrespective of what you do, will still want to be involved in these acts.
Yes. Let me come to the spiritual point of view. The moment these children go into these things, like this girl, she's become a prostitute. There's a spiritual stronghold. We don't talk about those things because they are not political, they are not legal. But there's a stronghold with this girl. Whatever you do for her, taking her into your home, giving her shelter, whatever, you need to deal with that foundation. If you don't deal with it and help her to get spiritual freedom, she will go back. Or somebody will lure her. Or the spirit ruling her will lure her. So in addition to everything else we do, we have to help these girls and boys, help them to find freedom in whatever religion they are in. Right? So that is it. In our culture, when a mother dies, the baby is taken on and suckled by another person. So like he was saying for Rwanda and Burundi, we can also have such a system. Like I'm saying, the big things don't work in Ghana. You know, it's the small things. So we know our queen mothers in when we had HIV, big issues in Krobo areas. It was the queen mothers who took it up and worked with it and did the queen mothers groups, having programs for the girls, being with them, using the depot system and all that. So this is also a thing that queen mothers can take on. Yes, because 90% of what the abuse and the issues come to us. If this girl gets HIV, it's her mother, it's her auntie, it's the women around her. It's always the women who are going to suffer. So we need to take it on. The queen mothers can take it on, the headmistresses can take it on, the church mothers can take it on, the counselors can take it on, the women pastors, I don't know whether we have women imams, but the magajias can take it on. So we need people to actually start, somebody to say, I'll do it, you know. And the other thing is, this girl, for example, has learned living alone culture. She has learned being on her own, being on the street, managing her own affairs, money and everything. When she comes, she needs to be reoriented to fit into living with other people and living within control and living within the law, you know. Otherwise, nothing. So there should be...
Doesn't it take special skills to be able to do that?
Yes, so that's what he's saying, that we need to train people to do it. The social workers are only 3,000, but these children, there are so many of them. If we train me and you and him, and they here, that each of us can take one child and help, that will magnify, isn't it? So let's look at social and traditional things that are working for children like that. How do we correct children when they go wrong? And so use it, and then it will help us.
The other half of the conversation is the punishments. Yeah. We can't say, because we may not be clear as to what the limit is, as parents, we can't beat our children. And I said that it must be very difficult if you're living with a child that is not your biological child, and you're thinking, what will people say if I beat the child? They would think that is because the child is not mine. So how do we control ourselves, looking at what is right, what is fair, what is the limits? What are you advocating? We shouldn't touch them at all?
Well, we should move to what we call positive discipline. I was frantically looking for some resource to come share with, my fellow Ghanaians. I realized I had left it somewhere. I was in Zanzibar last year, and we had a study tour of some of their child facilities and efforts being made by that tiny island to improve child protection there. They have a resource for positive parenting. That's what I was looking for. It's a very simple handbook which takes you through the stages of child development and how they grow. Children are not just small adults. Some of the brain matter that we have, Auntie Amele, she's from the science field, she can tell us. Some of the brain matter that we have, children don't have. A 3-year-old's attention span is short, 3 minutes. That's why you keep on saying stop, stop, stop. They simply forget. So this resource teaches us as parents, and it's easy to pop out a baby But parenting is learned. We must accept in Ghana that we have to learn to be parents through these resources, through talking to professionals in the field, the health personnel, the psychologists. They are there to help us. Even some of our own elders in our communities can help us do this.
I'll come back to you on more of the pointers because you've read this, so you can dish out a few. But fortunately, we're able to get Kweku Otre, who's now at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Sadly, in the past, when he was little, abused by a guardian. Kweku will share his experience with us. Kweku, good morning.
Good morning, madam.
Hello, Kweku.
Yeah, good morning, madam.
Hello, Kweku.
Good morning, madam.
Okay, Kweku, good morning. Thank you for joining us. So how little were you? You were young, and who were you? Who exactly were you living with?
Actually, I was staying with an auntie. At a very tender age.
No, Kweku, you have to come again. Sorry.
I said I was staying with an auntie at Medina.
Okay. And then you were how old then?
About 9 years old.
9 years. So what happened? What happened to you?
Actually, I would say I was involved in child labor and child abuse put together.
Wow.
Back at then, infancy, primary school, I was attending a shift school. So I used to go and sell water before I do go to school, and even after school, I do go and sell water. But in as much as I was doing all this, there were times I had to be doing this on empty stomach. I'll come and I'll not be allowed to sleep inside. I'll rather be, sleep outside. A whole lot of stuff. Sometimes I'll be beaten. A whole lot of stuff were done to me.
So for how long? Nine years till you were about how old?
So I was about 14 years.
Wow. And this auntie is like a real, your mother's sister or your father's sister, somebody very close?
Sure. Yeah, very, very close.
But what were your parents?
And she was also literate also, like she was a senior enrolled nurse.
What was there, so at this point, were you thinking, was there anybody else you could speak to? Did you try to speak to somebody?
Actually, there were people I could speak to, but I just kept it to myself because I was a kid by then. I didn't know how to go about that.
Were there other children? So your auntie, did she have other children also living with her? Was the treatment different?
Yeah, the treatment was different. There was this lady and also a guy. The guy was involved in what I was doing. Like we were similarly being treated the same. But the situation is, for me, mine was much more higher. Because I would say my initial stage began with child trafficking. She was supposed to give me to a friend of hers. And the friend said, looking at me, she can't stay with me because I couldn't adapt to the environment then. She presuming I'll be STK. So she had no option. And, she took me from my mom that she will be staying with me. So she can't take me to my mother. So it was like she was forced to stay with me. So my treatment was quite different from the others.
And you couldn't go back to your mother?
Sure, I couldn't go back to my mom.
Okay. Did you ever think at that age you could go to a police station?
Sure, I ever thought of that, and an incident happened at, I think, 2012, when they were playing the AFCON final. Yeah, an incident happened at that. She drove me out of the house, and then I was just wondering about that. Yeah, I was just wondering. And I met the police patrol team, and then as soon as they met me, they were kind of marveled at this young girl by this time of the night, just wondering. Because mostly used to sleep outside people's kills and other stuff when that incident happened. Unfortunately, that day it rained, so you couldn't. The places were wet. So I was just wondering about. Couldn't determine my fate, and I had to wait probably for the next morning before I come home. So they took me home and then brought me back to her, and they told her that actually she took me from someone, so she can't cope with me. The best alternative is to take me back to the person.
Did she do it?
No, I would say no. because like she told me, she called my mom that I reported her to the police, so she can't stay with me anymore. And then my mom called me asking why, like because she also said a different thing. And then I told my mom this. So my mom said, okay, then why is that all this while I've not told her? Besides, she's still saying she can't cater for me because all that while I was involved in that child labor, she was sending me money to cater for my fees.
Oh,
so
your mother was sending you money through?
Yeah, but meanwhile, I was naive of it.
Wow. So what do you think? I mean, like you're old enough, you're at the university now. Do you still think about what happened to you back then?
Sure. Sometimes when I do go back to Medina and I see my colleagues, some will tell me, hey, you have a story to tell. Some will be recalling the past incident, the trauma and everything I went through. So sometimes I do recall.
But did you give her trouble? I mean, do you at any point think that, okay, yeah, I was stubborn, so if that's how she could raise me, then maybe this is what she knew best?
Actually, I would say that my conditions over there could have prepared me to be a very stubborn guy, but rather it made me a tough guy. I would say that I'm not stubborn as I would say the bad way, but I'm a tough guy. That's it.
But you went ahead to do JHS, you went to senior high, and then you're now at the university.
Sure.
Okay, so just share with us, and I love the fact that you're sharing your experience because somebody may be listening to you and could be encouraged just by what you're saying and with your experience. So what should somebody like that, what were you thinking about? What were you looking at in terms of the future? What do you think carried you through all these years?
Okay, actually, one key thing that she said moved me because I can't remember back at primary, and then I was asked to pay exam fee and something like that. And then I came to her. She told me that under no circumstance will she pay the money for me because she sees no potential in me. And she said it point like that I may grow someday in future to become an armed robber in my face, and I felt so like distracting. So I had wanted to prove her society wrong and also help other people. That's why currently I'm an aspiring social scientist, and then I want to help humanity. That's it.
Amazing. So do you still visit this auntie?
Actually, she's moved from where she stays, and she has no contact with me. Like, I can't remember the last time I called, and she couldn't know that it was me because after I completed junior high school, I left her place, and I was privileged to get this uncle who was taking care of me, and I also like, he was paying my fees for that, and I was caring for my social needs. Yeah, that's it. So she was rather speculating over there that I'm a dropout, and I'm just doing this. I'm a dropout. I'm not in school, not knowing that I was in school. So most people who saw me completed senior high school and university were mad with a hard time because we were informed that you are home. So kindly for her, she will be surprised. But I don't think for now she knows that I'm at university.
Yeah. But are you bitter?
No, please.
Okay. So you would visit her if you could?
Sure. I don't know where she stays. Back at Medina, she was renting a place. But now she's built her own house at Pokia, so I don't know where she visited. Other than that, I would have visited her.
Okay. So when are you completing school, Kweku? Just before we wrap up.
Come again, please.
When are you finishing school?
Actually, I'm in my first year, so.
Oh, so you're fresh. Okay.
Yes,
enjoy your stay at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and thank you so much for sharing your very personal experience with us here on the AM show.
You're welcome, Mark.
Okay. All right. Kweku Ochri there, now first-year student at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, but went through a very horrible time. He could have turned out.
Yes.
What do you think?
So we would go with the usual mantra. God lives, God has helped Kweku, and his aunt may someday reap the seed that she has sown, that she may, when the Ghanaian give it to God comes in, it's like punishment will come someday. Yes, vengeance belongs to God. But we need to help Kweku. And now, Kweku still needs psychosocial support to help him overcome the trauma and to prevent anyone who is going to be like him from falling into the same boat. I'll let Amelie come in, then I have some other thoughts.
Okay, sure.
Leave them for now.
Yes, definitely Kweku needs help. He's talked about it on air. It's one big thing. Most people don't talk about it. So talking about it and sharing their feelings is good. But he needs to be helped spiritually, physically, emotionally, psychologically to come to terms with it. If he meets his aunt, all the emotions and things that go through, we need to help him go through it and bring some reconciliation. And on the other side, we need to help the aunt too, okay? If she had a spiritual problem, if she had a physical problem, whatever it was that made her do that, we need to help her too and help both of them to find freedom and to be able to come together. So both ways, both people need freedom. And then we also need to teach people to forgive. Kweku, for example, would have to be taught to forgive. Because when you don't forgive, it's you yourself you are hurting. You get the headaches and the heartaches and the toothaches and the stomach aches and all the aches. So Kweku and people, victims like that, need to be helped to forgive so that they can also have freedom.
Is there something, what is that thing? If the child is not your own, then what? It's difficult to love the child?
I don't think so. I think there are so many people who have... I lived with my stepmom. She was strict, but she was firm and she was fair. I mean, even when she disciplined me, I knew that when she traveled, one suitcase was mine. And she would give me enough food and everything, you know. And so it doesn't mean that... I think it's... The devil is also part of it, and we allow the devil to use us. And when we talk about all these things, we should talk about the spiritual aspect too. Somehow, oh, it's not your own, and do it to him, and all the strongholds, you see. So we need to also pray for both groups, that once you give your child to somebody, pray for the person to look after your child well, and pray for your child to also comport. So we need that aspect too. And then we need people encouraging you. She's not your stepchild. Even if she grows up in the future, she won't look after you. So people also pump things into you. You see, apart from what is coming from inside you, what the devil is bringing, other people too. You see, so we need support for people who are looking after other people's children. We need a lot of support. Again, it's not all your big jargons and your policies. It is the grassroots, the family system, which is breaking down. Friends around you, encouragement to do the right thing. You see, because what goes around comes around. This child may be the same person who look after you in old age. And when it's payback time,
technology hasn't helped much. We're supposed to have Daniel Forger, who's a clinical psychologist at the Komfanoche Teaching Hospital, also a law lecturer, bringing that other perspective to the conversation. But I think we're a little fortunate we've been able to raise him on the phone line. So we just want to talk to him briefly. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you for your time. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, hello, Mr. Forger.
Yes.
I hope that somehow you've been, even though we were not able to raise you early enough, you've been following the conversation. But you've also seen the documentary. So I want to leave it to you. What perspective do you also want to bring to the table?
Okay, thank you very much. And I want to say hello to your viewers. What has been happening with children and the experience that I've had with them through practice is that there are so many facets to this problem. I think some of your panelists have actually mentioned some of them. And I would love to just add a few things. Now, the understanding of children in psychology is that basically children are, they come to the world, they are hardwired to interact with people. And however they behave, however they turn up, is based on how the interactions they have with people. Now, often not, we feel, just like the panelist, one of the panelists, this lawyer said, that there is a thin line between punishment and correction or correction. We always fail to capture that properly. The only problem is that we always want to instruct children as to what to do. We don't have time to understand how they feel, how they think, and how they want to do things. So we end up imposing on them, forgetting that these children could also process exactly what we are trying to lead them to do, and then thereby creating some sort of a conflict. And then sometimes it results in some of the things that we see on the screen right now. Parents venting out a lot of anger, and then creating these forms of injuries, on the inflicting these forms of injuries onto the children. Yeah, it's not just parents. You've seen that in most of these cases, they were with foster parents, sometimes with teachers, sometimes with so many other people. And the problem that we sometimes, what I have seen, is that sometimes we look at it that, it is purely spiritual. It's not spiritual, I mean, it's not purely spiritual. Behavioral things, they don't start off just like that. They start off gradually. The child believes in something, sees evidence of it happening, and then the child feels that this is the right thing to do. Right. And yes, also, when you take a closer look at it, you would realize that some of these parents, some of these foster parents that look after these kids and inflict this kind of pain and this kind of injuries on them are people that have had history of that kind of an abuse, are people that would have underlying mental health problems. And that is what influenced them to do some of these things. The sad part is that, like the ones that I talked about in the documentary, it ends up in death. And then the other systems are supposed to help uncover some of these things. Through their own working, render it redundant, and then the perpetrators just find their way out of it. And that in itself reinforces that behavior that keeps on going within our right. This is purely a societal, the ones that we have here in Ghana. It is purely societal. Everybody here is to blame. No one can take themselves out. Because the moment we look at it like that, the moment we view it like that, then we realize that when we have a serious problem on our hands, then we can do something about it. So all of that, I haven't even come to the psychological effect that it has to these kids. I talked about something, a phenomenon in the documentary, that some of the kids will have some form of psychogenic pain. Now, this psychogenic pain is where an individual within their mind have created a physical something that doesn't have any biological piece. So somebody could have, a child could be experiencing paralysis, which I researched in a number of cases that I've seen. The child cannot move the limb because of that particular abuse that they've gone through. And the doctor could run all the tests there is to run to check whether the limbs are working. But then it would not be working. Then the doctors would have to hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We're listening.
Yes, okay. The doctors try to find a way as to why that particular limb is not working, and they wouldn't find it. And that is also one of the serious psychological conditions that normally happens with kids, and is very difficult to control. The amazing part of it is that the moment the conflict, that particular problem the child is trying to solve, gets a helping hand, somebody helps them to solve it, or it eventually solves, that particular symptom disappears. And that is one of the most serious things. I remember it was part of one of the conditions that actually led to the death of one of my patients. So it is something that we are facing. Maybe if you take a look at it from the face value, a lot of people would say that, okay, this looks spiritual. But this is the power of the mind. This is what we do to ourselves, and this is what cognitively happens to the kids. And then they pick up a certain template, they create a certain schema for themselves. And that is what sometimes some of these abuse lead to the prostitution or the wrong outcomes that we've seen. And so it is a big issue. If I want to talk about it, I'll keep on going and going.
I get you. And I don't know if you listen to Kweku. On the back of that, if you've gone through it and you seem okay because you've moved on in life, what kind of help, like what do we have to take you through? Do you have to report yourself, get a psychologist to speak to or something like that, even when you think that you've moved on?
Yes, you have to. And that is also one aspect that we don't pay attention to. A lot of people go through this. They seem to have gone through it perfectly, have resolved all of that. But in later life, it comes up at a certain point. Sometimes even unknowingly to them. I have had a patient, who's an adult, a professional now, very grown, in her late 30s, actually had gone through some form of sexual abuse when she was younger. They treated it that home, the family way. They settled it outside the court, outside the police station, outside all of that. So they solved it with him. This particular lady kept that thing in her mind. It controls her. So all that, just like what the gentleman you called said, he was trying to prove something to the one that abused them. Now what happens is that they grow up and then they end up engaging themselves in some acts that would inflict pain on another child. So the cascade keeps going on. This particular lady I was talking about, after being abused by a family member, grew up, found out that this family member had children, girls, and actually hired thugs to rape that little girl. And after the rape had been done, she found out that she was still not satisfied. That is when she realized she needed help. Because after doing that thing that she's planned for all these years, she realized it's still there. So those things can actually happen. You will see somebody who is very functional, but he could develop some of these things now.
Okay.
But every child is born and has some form of biological predisposition to be resilient towards sexual experiences. So it is very varied.
Sure. The
one that will have it. Yeah.
We will have to end it here. We thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Daniel Fojo is a clinical psychologist and also lecturer. Thank you very much too. He's at the Komfo Teaching Hospital. And I just want to read this message and then we'll probably have our last words because we've been on this for a while. Nana Kwesi Techman says some of these innocent kids are at the receiving end because of false accusations leveled against them by our men of God, branding them as witches and what have you. These parents and minors believe these pastors, hence the maltreatment. We can therefore hold them responsible for these abuse. And I think I want to tackle this from the angle of the law. If somebody leads somebody on to abuse, what can the law do?
You lead another person on to abuse, you are most likely an abettor. You have abetted the commission of a crime. You aid, you counsel, you encourage, you promote. All of those constitute abetment. And you can suffer the same punishment as the person who actually did the beating. So
can we link this to a pastor or a prophet who says, oh, the little girl you're living with is a witch? There was one example, somebody sharing the experience and saying that he was seeing 2 eyes on the chest of the little girl. And I was like, don't you rather have a mental problem? Why is it the girl's fault that you can see 2 eyes?
Yes, if that has been, encouraged by somebody in a certain position of authority and influence, like some religious leader, yes, that person will be held to be an abettor.
We should begin to take some of these people.
I put it in context. Some religious leader. Yes.
Who will go and say it's my pastor who said my child is a witch? And who will go and catch that pastor? Because we see them as holy, and nobody will do that. But
we even see them on television.
And I'm saying that which lawyer, which policeman will go and catch him? It's not done. You know, in Ghana, I mean, it's not done. So we need something, a way of catching these people too.
We'll have to.
You see, that's what we are not doing. Too many laws, no action. You see, but we need some. The children need some redemptive discipline. We have to find a way of disciplining them without punishing them, all right, and making them feel loved. Yesterday I was teaching my teachers that if a child doesn't do his homework, caning is not the issue. What can we do positively to make her do the homework and love doing it? So let's have rules, set up rules for ourselves in the classroom, and then when we set up the rules, have consequences that will help us. And we ourselves, Joy FM and other people, actually, let's teach parenting on the radio and television, like we teach first aid. You know, you go to school to be a nurse, to be a lawyer, to be a journalist, a host, and so forth. Nobody teaches you to be a parent, you know, and nobody teaches you to be a student, and nobody teaches you to be straight, you see. So all these things, the radios can help.
Please make yourself available so that, you know, we can be doing regular. That will be fine. But I want you to leave the last tips on, I don't know where you want to come from.
Let us have more recreational spaces as a country and more recreational opportunities. Couples are not finding time together. Families are not finding time because we are all working, we are all in traffic, we are all in school, we are all frustrated, and we take that frustration out on our children, who are equally frustrated. 3-year-olds are going for vacation classes. We are all doing something. Let us pause and do nothing for once and sit as families. That's what I'll say.
Thank you. Thank you. Auntie Amelie, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. But if there's any,
okay.
yes.
I'm appealing to the women. Let's get up. Let's get up. Let's just get up. Queen mothers, whoever you are, if you're a woman and you love your daughter, get up and be a mentor, be a friend, talk to them, find out what is going on in their lives. I mean, all the big laws and things won't do anything if we don't get up and help our girls and boys. Thank you.
And when she says all the big laws, then her hands are here. Thank you very much. Amelie Oleno is a nurse and also a theologian, a woman who loves children very much. And she's a teacher as well. And Edmund Foley is a law lecturer. He specialized in child rights law as well.
Father of 4 children.
Say again?
4 children.
Yeah, you've got 4 children. Thank you so much for all the perspective. Daniel Fojo joined us from Kumasi. But I want to say thank you to Erastus Asari Donko, my colleague with Love FM in Kumasi, who brought these discoveries to life. It's courtesy of him that we're having this conversation. I promise you we'll have many more of these talks here on our show. Up next we have Becky. She's got a wrap of all the entertainments, and then we have to say goodbye to you. Apologies that you're not able to join us via phone because we had a technical challenge. Stay with us.